Hello, BookTube. Believe it or not, I have a mail haul for you today. It's only one book. It came earlier today, but it surprised me because I'm not expecting to get any mail at all. The more I think about it, the more I think that publishing houses that tell their publicists and their editors and whatnot to work from home are certainly going to say the same thing to their shipping and receiving. They're not going to have those people go in. And also, you know, the places that they don't originate the books. They get them there from warehouses and whatnot. They won't get shipments of books anymore, much less have anything to ship out. I have a feeling that that's going to be true. I have a feeling that the strictures that are impinging on all of our lives now are going to get worse before they get looser. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a drastic restriction in the mail, just in mail delivery itself, regardless of whether or not these things are shipped out to via UPS or U.S. Postal Service or whatever. So I'm kind of expecting that this spring and summer we will go without mail. I just won't have it. I'll get electronic galleys of whatever I get electronic galleys of, but other than that, there'll be nothing. That's what I'm kind of expecting. But I did get a package in the mail. It's only one thing, and it's heavy. So I thought we did a one book mail haul yesterday. Might as well do one today as well. Could be something interesting. Okay. Yes, I don't know if we saw this on this channel already. This is from Oxford University Press, and since it's Oxford, it won't be a case of the book that we got yesterday, where it's right around the corner. Oxford tends to send out their advanced copies very, very advanced. So this is probably, well, when is this? Yeah, this is June. So I won't be getting this immediately. We may have seen this on this channel before. This is the advanced copy of The Scourge of War, The Life of William Tecumseh Sherman by Brian Holden Reed. And this is what it's going to look like. It's another biography of General Sherman. William Tecumseh Sherman is one of the best-known generals of the Civil War and one of the key architects of the North's ultimate victory. He is often remembered, however, as a ruthless, heartless, and unprincipled destroyer who unleashed death and destruction in his wake. This villainous reputation, however, veers drastically from the reality of Sherman's actions during the war. And in this book, leading military and Civil War historian Brian Holden Reed offers a definitive life and times account of this key Civil War figure that challenges many of the well-known stereotypes that have dogged his legacy. And now that I read that, I think I remember talking about this with you when I first got a copy. And the main problem, I haven't touched I guess I must have another copy of this. I haven't touched it, and I probably won't touch it until late May. But the main problem with that assertion, the first assertion of the pub sheet, he is often remembered, however, as a ruthless, heartless, unprincipled destroyer who unleashed death and destruction in his wake. This villainous reputation veers drastically from the reality of Sherman's actions during the war. Those two sentences are factually incorrect. The reality of Sherman's actions during the war is dictated not by some author's opinion, but by the facts on the ground, by newspaper accounts, by army receipts and eyewitness accounts and whatnot, and those are unanimous. There is no hidden strand of those accounts that talks about a merciful Sherman. It talks about an army of his that refused to destroy what it had in its hands to destroy. There are no first-hand accounts that say anything like that. In fact, there's quite a large body of first-hand accounts that have been routinely suppressed by historians and propagandists who want to paint a nicer picture of Sherman than he deserves. There are plenty of accounts that are even worse than the ones that typically make it into books like this. And this author is tilting his hat against the whole of it. He's saying none of that is true. That all of that blackens a reputation that doesn't deserve to be blackened. So the point to make with a book like this is, this is an example of the kind of thing that I talk about often one of the reasons that I love reading history and biography is because after a while of reading about a certain person or certain people or certain event or time or whatever, you start to know it well. The more you read, the more you know it well. I have read and reviewed for newspapers over the course of the last 45 years, at least 3 Sherman biographies, and I believe 1 edition of his memoir. And every one of those reviews required a huge amount of research, on top of the enormous amount of reading I've done about the American Civil War to begin with. So I'm familiar with this author's sources. I'm familiar with his subject. I'm familiar enough to say that this is an impossible case to make. if the pub sheet is correct, and that is the case this author is trying to make, that Sherman's his reputation has been blackened, and that he wasn't extravagantly cruel and comprehensively destructive during the American Civil War. From what I know of those sources, you cannot make that case. You just have to get around it. Most Sherman biographers get around it by saying, what Sherman said himself, which is that we have to do this. Yes, it's horrible, but we have to do it, because otherwise it's just going to go on being horrible. The key thing about a war is you have to end it. Most biographers do that, and they do that specifically because they can't get around the reality of his reputation during the war itself. This author is claiming that reputation is false. I know large parts of it are not, so that makes this, believe it or not irritating. Oh, probably you will believe it. It makes it all the more interesting for me to get this and to go through it. I will argue with the daylights out of this thing. I'm sure I will. Same thing as with that big fat new James Monroe biography. I argue the daylights out of it. I want these authors to test my assurance. I want them to test my certainty in what I know. Absolutely I do. I'm not going into these things with my mind ossified shut. But there are some things in history. Margaret Beaufort, George Washington's mother. There are some things in history that we shall see. We shall see. So in June, those of you who are Civil War buffs, The Scourge of War is going to be coming out from Oxford University Press, and we will all talk about it then. Those of you who love this subject, we'll talk about it then and see where we fall. Maybe I'll read this thing a little early and give it even more attention than usual. But anyway, that is the mail. We got one package, so that's something. So I'm going to wrap this mail all up, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.